So, hello, Mark. It's such an honor to have you as a guest on the Paleo Gardening Expert Interview. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure, Lynn. Great to be here.
So, I want to start off by personally thanking you for Mark's Daily Apple because that was the glue that held me together through my sugar addiction ending lifestyle. You're our reference guide. Great.
I'm sometimes my own reference guide. I sometimes type in some search words and on something I'm thinking about writing, and up pops something I wrote 3 years ago as the first result. Yeah.
Mark Sisson is the author of The Primal Blueprint and The Primal Connection, the creator of the popular paleo blog Mark's Daily Apple, and the owner of Primal Nutrition. So, Mark, how would you explain the Primal Blueprint to anyone who is unfamiliar with your work?
The intention of the Primal Blueprint is to live an awesome life and to extract the greatest amount of joy and pleasure from every moment possible and decrease the amount of pain and suffering, sacrifice as possible. With that in mind, the Primal Blueprint is a set of guidelines, a set of suggestions, if you will, on how to achieve good health and vitality through making choices in the food you eat, the types of exercise that you choose to do, the amount of sun exposure you get, the amount of sleep you get, and things like that, all of which have an effect on the body at a level of gene expression. And so the Primal Blueprint looks at how our genes are basically a recipe that wants us to be strong and fit and happy and healthy and productive. But it needs input from us. And so the Primal Blueprint is really about selecting those inputs that give us the greatest opportunity to achieve all of those goals.
Wow, that's really cool. I've never heard it said quite that way, and that makes so much sense to me. That by putting the right things in and doing the right things, then we get to express ourselves with that joy and vitality. That's cool.
Exactly.
So how has your personal journey to health affected how you're helping others?
I have always been interested in health and fitness from a very early age. I've always wanted to do the right thing, a voracious reader of health books, even at the age of 12 and 13, and wanted always to do whatever it would take to be healthy, including eating the right foods and exercising. So I started out very early on that path to health, and it led me initially through the wisdom of the times, which was then in the 60s and 70s, in a path that had me running a lot because aerobic activity was considered to be the best thing you could do for your body, and eating complex carbohydrates and doing so to fuel the running activities and the aerobic activities, and a program that was based largely on complex carbohydrates, which was the order of the day, was how I lived my life for the next 15 years and became a pretty good marathon runner and a pretty good triathlete and logged hundreds of miles, or actually thousands of miles, actually tens of thousands of miles, running and cycling. And I was very fit and very fast, but I wasn't healthy. And I look back on that period of time and I thought, wait a minute, here I was intent on gaining health and fitness, of course, in the pursuit of that, but ultimately I wanted to live a long life and I wanted to be healthy, and I wasn't there. I had arthritis in my 20s. I had severe irritable bowel syndrome. I had esophageal and gastric, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, heartburn. I had upper respiratory tract infections 6 or 8 times a year. I was a wreck. It was like, okay, what is wrong with this picture? I did everything that conventional wisdom and modern science said to do to be healthy, and look at me, I'm falling apart. So I retired from competing, partly because of all the injuries that I accrued, and set myself on a mission to discover ways in which I could regain the health that I had sought initially. I still wanted to be fit. I still wanted to be, strong and lean and and be able to compete and participate in fun sports and things like that. But ultimately, I wanted just to be healthy. I wanted the pain to go away, the arthritic pain, the pain of my IBS. I wanted all of that to go away. And that really is what began this mission to discover the ways in which diet is so critical in affecting the inflammation or not inside the body, and discovering ways in which getting not enough sleep could increase inflammation and make our lives miserable. The ways in which avoiding sun, because conventionalism said to avoid sun, was robbing us of vitamin D and making us more susceptible to illness. And lo and behold, after a number of years of looking into this, I put this LifeWay together, this Primal Blueprint strategy, and it turned out that many of the things that we've been told by conventional wisdom over the years were diametrically opposed to what the recent science had actually demonstrated through either modern genetic science or just medicine in general. So I just sort of decided that I didn't want anyone else to have to go through what I went through, and I set myself on a path to see how I could be as strong and lean and fit and happy and healthy as possible with the least amount of pain, suffering, sacrifice, discipline, calorie counting, and portion control.
What I'm finding in this realm of people is we make a decision. We decide, I'm going to change, I'm going to figure this out. And it sounds like you went right down that path, and now you're able to share that with people. So thank you for that.
Yep.
So what is your vision for the future of your work? I know you got some exciting projects.
Well, for my own work, I've always got new things going on, and I'm actually, we've put about 1,000 people through our certification program thus far, and we have this Primal Blueprint Expert certification. So somebody who's interested in doing what I do can sign up and take an online course, a very, very rigorous online course, which goes deeply into not only what you should do and sort of why you should do it, but the science behind how it works, so that people get a real deep understanding of what we're talking about when we say, saturated fat is not the culprit that we thought it was, and it's not that critical to avoid saturated fat. Or when we say, staying up late and watching TV is bad for you, people go, well, why is it bad for me? Well, we can go into the science of how the blue light emanating from the TV interferes with the onset of melatonin, which is what allows you to sleep. It's just the whole certification program is 13 modules, each one of which you have to pass in order to move on to the next module. And people who've taken the course and we've had a lot of physicians take it, and chiropractors, and we have periodontists and dentists take it, and trainers and life coaches, and everyone, almost to a person, says it's the most rigorous of these sorts of courses they've encountered online, and yet they're so glad they took it because they thought they knew what the Primal Blueprint was all about, and there's so much more to it than what I write about on my blog on a daily basis. So we're really excited about that, and that's one of when we talk about the vision for the future of my work. I'd like to leverage what I've done through training other people to do it and do it well. My dream is to have, physicians take this training or others, because there are other people offering trainings like this now, and incorporate that into their practice so that they spend more than 7 minutes with each patient, and really, instead of just sitting down and going, let's see, you need to, from your numbers here, Ms. Gillespie, it seems like you need to exercise more and eat better. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like, tell me what that means. So so that's really how I want to leverage this. And I've got a lot of other projects I'm working on, actually introducing a line of franchise restaurants in the next month.
Yay!
Under the name of Primal Kitchen. And we're quite excited about that. We've had a tremendous amount of interest from franchisees about doing that. And then I just started a food company, which we can talk about in a bit if you want. But a lot of things that are exciting to me, but also seem to take the technology that we've developed here at the Primal Blueprint and make it accessible to people across many different platforms. So when I say we can train people on how to live this way, we can also train people on how to coach others to live this way, but also by doing restaurants, we can offer places where people can go and eat this way, and by, I've done events in the past where people can come experience it for 3 or 4 days at a time, and with this new food company, Primal Kitchen Food Group, we'll offer the sorts of sauces and dressings that people can put on their food and not feel bad about it, but in fact feel great about. The more they put on their food, the healthier their food becomes, because there's nothing in there but great ingredients that add nutrition to whatever they're eating, instead of sugary, salty, fatty stuff that you should stay away from.
I agree. And in one of your books I was reading, you're like, it's all about the sauce. And I've been doing that with some of my kids that won't eat certain vegetables, and I make the sauce and they eat it. It is so wonderful. And I know that the sauce is okay for them too. So it makes
that's
enjoyable.
Exactly. That's crazy, but if that's what it takes to get kids to eat healthy, then let's do it. Let's not pull our hair out trying to force them to eat something that doesn't. Let's face it, some kids, the first time they eat broccoli or Brussels sprouts or kale, it doesn't appeal to them. They haven't developed those taste buds yet, but if you can slather it in some really wonderful tasting, rich, full of healthy fats and other micronutrients and superfoods, some sauce, then hey, let's more power to you.
I use the sauce when I'm feeling like I need like a carb load or something. I'm like, I'm just going to eat carrots with some dip, and then it's like the whole world's okay again. It's great. Exactly. Yeah. So the sauce is, to me, is the icing on the cake for this lifestyle. Yeah, love that. Love your mayonnaise. The mayonnaise is great.
It's funny, because the mayonnaise, we've been working on a bunch of different salad dressings for the last 2.5 years in the lab. But our criteria are so stringent that it has to taste great. It has to be nothing but healthy. It has to be clean, no nasty ingredients, and have some functional foods in it. And ultimately, it has to be a formula that can be produced in large quantities in order to make it a viable product for stores. And ironically, of all the things that we've been working on, the mayonnaise was the first one that really came to that point where we said, oh my God, this is awesome, it's ready, we can make it. And rather than wait to have 3 or 4 other dressings before we launched the company, we thought, well, let's just start with the mayonnaise and see what the traction is. And it's been incredible. It's been overwhelming. I mean, we just launched in February, and we exceeded our first year sales projections within 2 months. We're in 150 Whole Foods now, probably be in all of them by the end of the year, but also in another couple of hundred other health food stores across the country, plus some online stuff. It's been very, very gratifying to see that there is an appreciation for this kind of product, for a clean, healthy, great tasting mayonnaise.
Yeah, people are wanting it. Yeah. So how have you seen the Paleo Primal trend growing? What does that look like over the last, 10, 12 years you've been in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it continues to grow, but it still grows a little slower than I'd like, but at least it's continuing to grow. And it grows at a pace that reflects the sort of one-on-one grassroots. What's the word I want? People tell other people about how they got rid of their weight, or how they got off their meds, or whatever. It's all testimonial driven. Yeah, it's really organic that way, which is good because that means people stick to it, and they don't just necessarily say, "Oh, here's the latest fad. I'll try it for a couple of weeks and then I'll stop doing it." So, in that regard, it continues to grow. I think also that it started out a little too militant and people were like, oh, well, you can't eat this on the paleo diet, and can't eat that, and don't do this, don't do that. And that scared a number of people away. And what I'm seeing now is that people are now starting to realize that, well, there are elements of the paleo diet that work really well for them, and those are the ones they ought to keep. But maybe some other parts of the paleo diet aren't as attractive, and it's okay not to do those. So some people say, well, I've never really had a problem with legumes. I don't have an issue with hummus or lentils or beans if they're prepared well. So even though they're not paleo, I'll include them in my eating strategy. And as far as I'm concerned, that's perfectly fine. If it doesn't bother you and it doesn't cause you any upset, then include those. So I think that the evolution of paleo and primal has expanded out to where people are starting to experiment with foods that they thought were taboo, and now are able to sort of reintroduce them and not experience any problems. And when you reintroduce a food that you like to be eating, it just expands your palate, expands your range. I mean, one of the early recognitions I had with primal versus paleo was I thought, well, I don't think if you're lactose tolerant, if you can consume lactose, then why would you not consume butter and artisanal cheeses and heavy cream in your coffee? To me, again, we're talking about enjoying life, which includes enjoying every bite of food you put in your mouth. So to the extent that you can expand that palate out a little bit, then I think that's great. So I see a lot of that going on now in the paleo primal world, where people are starting to, include a little bit more of these foods now that they've seen the power that food has. They're willing to experiment and sort of observe how these foods affect them. And if they affect them negatively, then they say, well, I won't eat that. But if they don't affect them negatively, then they'll say, you know what, I'll maybe include a little bit of that.
That's good that people are kind of building their own path through this. My path is almost autoimmune protocol. I've just backed off of things, and now I found this sweet spot for myself. And man, my energy's up. I can go, and sleep well, and it's fun to find that sweet spot. But
for a lot of people who again got into paleo early, they thought, well, wait a minute, it's a meat-centric, low carb, very low carb strategy, and they might have tried it for a while, and then you get sick of meat pretty quickly if that's all you eat, and you start wondering, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Well, a lot of people have found out that they can consume, a little bit more carbs than they assumed was the maximum allowable on the primal blueprint. So a sweet potato once in a while. With the research in the past few years on resistant starch, we discovered that cold potatoes, that once potatoes have been cooked and then chilled, the glycogen, the glucose in them, recrystallizes into a form of resistant starch, which is a good thing. And yet you go, well, who eats cold potatoes? Because there's no good mayonnaise. Oh, wait a minute. There is a good mayonnaise now. So, mayonnaise, the Primal Kitchen mayonnaise has put potato salad back on the menu. And we're finding a lot more areas where we can kind of mix and match and make our eating strategy work for us as individuals rather than just from one dogmatic sheet of don't do this and do that.
Yeah. You start there, and then you build your own path. That's good.
Yep.
People are thinking for themselves. So what are the most common paleo diet misconceptions that you hear about?
Well, I think one of them is that it's a meat-centric diet, and I have a problem with that because it's not meat-centric. In fact, there are a number of people who come to me who are vegetarian and paleo. My son is vegetarian and paleo, and he gets a lot of his protein from eggs, from artisanal cheese that might appear on one of the dishes that he prepares. He uses protein powder. He does consume black beans once in a while, so he sort of adapted this to his lifestyle quite easily, and he gets plenty of protein. So it's, the assumption that we need all this meat to get the protein, we don't really need that much protein. It turns out with that maybe those protein numbers have been kind of overstated for the years, and particularly if you've got the rest of your gut intact and you've healed. For instance, if you've healed a leaky gut and you're much more efficient at digesting food and extracting the nutrients from food, it turns out you just may need less food, period, than you thought you did or than you used to before you were passing half of it through you undigested.
Yes.
So that's one of the, I got off on a tangent there, but that's one of the misconceptions about the paleo diet. Another one would be that that if it didn't grow, if a caveman didn't eat it, we can't eat it. I think, first of all, there's nothing that's in our stores today that resembles anything that a caveman ate. So we'd go pretty hungry if we had to just use that as our metric.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, but that means that you just have to be careful about. You have to understand a little bit about what's behind your food, and that's why paleo gardening is such a great opportunity to get in touch with what you're eating and to understand the nuances of the different vegetables that you can grow and the different types of fruits that are available and how much sugar is in certain fruits versus others. So there are a lot of opportunities here to learn. And I guess the original paleo misconception was that paleo was just a diet, but Primal Blueprint was always a lifestyle. Primal Blueprint was always some diet, but then it looked at every other aspect of life. It looked at how you moved, how you slept, how much sun you got, how often you spent resting or playing, how often you use your brain, things like that. I think the current paleo world is coming around to adopting that as well as their main as a focus as well, to understand that there's a lot more to life than just losing weight, looking good naked because of how you eat. We have to enjoy every moment, and that includes being able to find time to play, being able to find time to hang out with friends and family, things like that. So the new paleos are coming around to that. What has been the Primal Blueprint main sort of focal point for a long time.
Nice. I love that. I love having that joy and passion in my life, and eating this way just fuels that for me because it gives me the energy to go out, and I'm so excited to help people garden so that they can have what I'm experiencing because it's so awesome. So on Paleo Gardening, our mission is to make the paleo lifestyle available to anyone by inspiring and teaching them practical skills. So how would you inspire someone who is just beginning their paleo journey?
I'd entice them with some of the cookbooks that are available. We have several that we publish, but there are probably 500 paleo cookbooks now. And in most of the paleo cookbooks, what you discover is that the food that is prepared is exceptionally delicious. So one of the first areas of inspiration is to go, look, you've been sort of dieting, you've been watching what you eat, and you've been staying away from fat, and you've been, cutting back on maybe foods that you shouldn't, but including other foods like extra whole grains in your diet. What if I showed you a way where every bite of food you eat was a joyful experience, where you loved every bite of food you put in your mouth? And, so that's sort of how I start people on this journey, by inspiring them with great tasting dishes that, oh, by the way, this is probably the healthiest meal you've had today. I inspire them by saying, look, we're going to transform your workout from a workout to a fun movement session. So don't ever go into a gym or into a training or an exercise session without thinking, I've got to find some fun. I've got to find some joy here. You have to find the joy in movement. And it's easy to do. So everything now counts. Playing hide and seek in the park with your kids counts as movement, counts as exercise. Throwing a frisbee with your dog counts as movement, counts as exercise. Water skiing, snowboarding, ice skating, these all count as, it's not like, okay, I did these and now I have to go to the gym. No, that was your gym. You went and you had fun and you played, and at the same time you moved your body in so many different planes of action that your body got these great messages which cause the genes to turn on, that build more muscle, that burn fat faster, that decrease inflammation. All the things you wanted to do happen as a result of your having a fun workout experience. So that's another area that I would really kind of encourage people to look at and say, well, this, I think it's easy to inspire people, but you got to sort of let them know what's available to them if they start doing this.
My exercise experience after reading your blog, I'm like, okay, lift something heavy, run a little bit, sprint, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go chase the sheep, climb the fence, move a bale of hay, and feed them. It was like, it fit into the entire exercise program, and it was a lot of fun.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I do that every day.
And you got some stuff done.
Yeah.
And it's really sort of
great.
Accomplished in multitasking, and it's true as the greatest.
Your work has helped so many people, and there are many of us who would like to see you continue. So how can anyone listening stay involved with you?
Well, Mark's Daily Apple, the main blog is the place where people sort of go every day. We have I write a new article every day and have every day for the last 7 years. I have a forum where people can kind of interact with each other and explore more deeply some of these concepts. I highly recommend taking the expert certification course. We just introduced a $1 down monthly payment plan, so people don't even have to pay for the full amount up front, and that's resonated with a lot of people because a lot of people they get so into this they want more. They want to understand more. They want to, whether it's just to further their own knowledge or to help their family, or it may be to again to enhance their professional vocation, which may be life coach, personal trainer, physician, something like that. So that's another way that people could get involved. And if you want to start a restaurant, primalkitchenrestaurant.com. You can go there and look into applying for a franchise there.
We have a farm-to-table restaurant in town, and my son runs it. And the first 6 months that we had the restaurant, we didn't own a can opener, and we didn't even know it because we take the food from the farm to the cafe, and he prepares that for people. We source all local meats. We grow, the pigs, the turkeys, the chickens, the beef, and the lamb here on the farm. And then we have a neighbor that grows buffalo and elk, and those go on the menu as well. And the whole menu is seasonal. So whatever Mom grows is what goes on the menu. Yeah, it's so much fun.
I love it.
Yeah, it's been a real great thing. And we were rated like number 11 out of the United States as to restaurants and entertainment. So people come to the restaurant and they eat, and then we give them farm tours. So they come out and see where everything grows that they just ate. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Our family is loving all this.
Wouldn't it be great if we could, if that could be a restaurant concept across the country?
It could. And the way that would work is you would have a farm that would be dedicated to the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's the way that we're working it. And, that concept could easily be put together. We've been 3 years at it now.
Wow.
And it's really getting pretty solid. I know all the growing seasons, and we know when we have to switch from broccoli to spinach, and then back to broccoli, and then bring in the zucchini, and then that goes out, and then we put in the winter squash. And so he doesn't have a vegetable account with any big company. It's all whatever comes off the farm.
Wow.
And the number one salad is kale salad. They blow through kale like nobody's business. I'm so proud of them.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fresh kale is a different beast from kale that's been sitting around on a store shelf for a while, too.
Oh, yeah. The nutrient density is so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are recognizing with our restaurant is, the flavors are there. And I have other friends that have farms, and they're like, yours is the only restaurant that the food tastes like food.
Right.
It's like, thank you. That's a big compliment.
That's great. Yeah, it does. It seems a little bizarre that somebody would even say that or have to say that, but there you go. That's just more of an indictment on what we've done with our produce and the mass production these days.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, and then I know how to push that nutrient density up to the top. We pick it at the peak, and then it goes to the restaurant the next day.
Right.
So they're getting good stuff, and their bodies recognize it.
That's the other aspect of what we do. Is I've created a demand for a lot of these things, a lot of healthy food, and now the supply is like a little bit tapped out in some parts of the country. It's it's difficult to find farm to table restaurants. It's difficult to find CSAs in some parts of the country. It's difficult to find fresh grown produce. Some towns and cities don't have a farmer's market. I mean, and that's sad, but that's really what we need to work on, I think.
Yeah, and I want people to grow in their backyards. Our little system, 15 minutes a day is all you need to dedicate, and you can feed 2 to 3 people continuously.
Wow.
So it's very doable, very easy system. It's something that I've had to develop over the years because we grow 20,000 square feet, and I'm only 5'1" and 100 pounds. So it's like things have to be light and easy, and I have to be able to get through the day because I have 3 kids. And it's a good system to get people going on, and I love coaching people through it because they start really small, and then the next year they add another garden, another, and another, and then they're telling their neighbors, and it's really fun to watch.
Right. Anybody who's interested, go to marksdailyapple.com.
Okay.
We've got, if you want to go find out about the certification, go to primalblueprint.com, and there's a whole section there on getting certified. And, thanks for listening.
It was a pleasure to have you as a guest on the Paleo Gardening Expert interview, and I want you to have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Lynn. You too.